Okay, to make the Sriracha glazed chicken burger, we need to start with the chicken, and the first thing that I need to do is prepare a marinade for the chicken. So I'm going to put, I've got just a pinch of salt in the bottom of my bowl, and I'm going to add just about a dessert spoon of oil just to help these flavours mix together to be coated on the chilli. You need half a teaspoon of smoked paprika. If you don't have smoked paprika or you prefer normal paprika, that's absolutely fine, but I quite like smoked paprika, so I'm going to use that. I'm just going to add a little bit of crushed chilies. Again, you can use chili powder if you would prefer, but you only need a touch of crushed chilies in there. Personal choice. If you want more, add more. If you like less, add less. If you don't like crushed chilies, then you can always use ground chilies. And then I've got garlic and ginger. So the garlic I'm just going to crush so that I can peel this, and I'm just going to peel this with my fingers and get rid of that. The ginger, the easiest way to peel your ginger is actually with a teaspoon. So you can scrape your ginger with a teaspoon, and I need just a thumb-sized piece of ginger. So that's about half of this piece of ginger here. So I'm just going to peel that. Love the smell of fresh ginger. And then these two need to be prepared to go into the marinade. So you can chop your garlic if you would like to. You can finely grate it. That side of a grater, the very small holes, and you can grate the ginger as well. But as I'm doing this at home, I have this little ceramic grater which I like, and I just am going to rub this over the top, and it will finely, there we go, that'll do, grate both the ginger and the garlic for me. And the fresh ginger and garlic are what is going to give a lot of flavour to this marinade. So once you have grated these and used as much of them as you want, there we go, I've nearly got down to where I grated. The ginger's quite fibrous, so I'm not going to use that bit, but I've grated almost all of the ginger that I did. Just going to add that into there and stir that up to mix it. And this is where I'm going to put the chicken thighs in a minute. So I will know that they have been coated in this marinade because it's a nice orange colour. So I'm just going to put that to one side for a moment and deal with the chicken thighs. Now for this recipe you are going to be deboning and skinning chicken thighs, and it's a good skill to have for your exam. So this is a boning knife, and you know that it's a boning knife because of the shape of it. It's actually quite slim. We don't have any boning knives at school, so I would suggest looking for a knife with a thin blade if you can find one. You can see this knife actually has a slightly thinner blade than that knife, so I would use that one if I didn't have a boning knife. For your exam you can debone a whole chicken, but that's expensive. Deboning chicken thighs is a much quicker and cheaper way of doing it. These chicken thighs are not very big, so it shouldn't take very long. The first thing you need to do is get the skin off. So just find the skin, lift it and pull that off. And if you find that the skin is really slippery in your fingers, the best thing to do, and on this one I'm actually going to pull from here, there's a little bit of skin underneath, and I'm going to pull that bit. The best thing to do is to get a piece of paper towel or a kitchen towel and just pull the skin off with those. So pull the skin off the chicken and get that out of the way. You're going to do this with 2 chicken thighs at school. These ones are quite small, especially that one's weeny. So I'm going to show you twice how to do this. When you've got your chicken off, or got the skin off your chicken, you need to turn it over. And when you turn it over, you'll be able to see, I'll just move this forward, you'll be able to see the bone, and the bone is going to go from here to here. It's a thigh bone. This is the end which is easier to get out. This end is going to be more difficult. And what you do is you put it down on your board and you start by just cutting through the meat at one end and down to the bone. So once I've done that, I can actually see, here we go again, I can see the bone there. So I can see the bone, and the idea is you leave as little meat on the bone as possible. And then I'm just going to use my knife tip and work down the side of that bone, taking away as much meat as I possibly can and leaving the bone, there we go, as clean as I possibly can. So you need a nice sharp knife with a good tip so that you can work either side. And if I just do a little bit on that side, I'm going to turn it round, do the other side of the bone. So I'm just using my fingers to pull away the meat as I'm working so that I have just the bone exposed. There we go. So just the bone exposed on the chicken, and at this end where I could see the bone, I'm just going to cut round. So when I have nearly got all the way round the chicken thigh, this is the knobbly end where I've got more to contend with. When I've got nearly all the way around the chicken thigh, I'm going to slide my knife underneath the bone, keeping it against the bone, and just cut away from me. And if you have a sharp knife, it really helps, but then I have the knobbly end of the bone is here, and I can just cut down onto the board. Now that bone has almost no chicken on it, and that's what you would leave for the examiner to see. This chicken thigh now has nothing on it, and before you do anything else to it, you've just got to double check. So use your fingers, and where the bone was, just make sure that you cannot feel any bone or any gristle there, and then turn it over. And when you turn it over, you can see there is some fat here on this side, and I just want to get rid of that little bit of fat down there. So I'm just going to get rid of that bit of fat. If I turn it that way on this side, I can see there is a slightly larger bit of fat here. Just going to cut that off, get rid of that. And then chicken thighs that you see in the supermarket are always nice and neat on the top. So if you just turn it over again, fold those 2 bits in and place it that way up, that is what it would look like when you buy it in the supermarket. So I'm just going to do one more, and then we'll move on to the next bit. So same as before, I've got the skin off my chicken, I have it this way up. That I know is a piece of bone, but I'll deal with that in a minute. And what I need to do is, sorry, I'm just trying to get this right under there. There's my bone, that's one end, that's the other end. So I'm just going to cut down until I can see the bone. I can feel the bone and I can see it. And then using my knife tip, keeping my fingers out the way, work one side of the bone, there we go, so that the bone is exposed. Right, so you can see the bone and you can see that you are cutting away, excuse me, the chicken from that bone, and then I'm going to turn it around, pick it up, turn it around, and I am going to do the same thing this side of the bone. So same thing, just cut right as close to the bone as I can possibly get, making sure that I am leaving as little meat as possible on that bone, and my knife will go underneath. This is the end that would normally be easier to free, but because I've got that bit of bone there, I need to cut that off. So let me just get rid of that. I'm just going to get rid of that bit of bone there first to make it a bit easier. There we go, get rid of that. That wants to go out of my way. And then because I'm almost clear under there, and I can see that, remember, knife underneath and cut away, up that way, through there, and the bone will lift up. So the bone will lift up, and then I need to cut it away at this end. And I've got, trying to cut round all the gristly bits, all the knobbly bits, leave them there. And again, the bone has almost no fat on it, and then just check that you've got nothing left behind, no small bits of bone. Turn it over, get rid of that fat. So I just want to cut that little tiny bit of fat off there, trying not to take away too much of the meat. Turn it around again, there is fat here which I just want to slice off the fat, get rid of that, turn it over, curl it up, and I have another chicken thigh done. When you've done both of your chicken thighs, you need to pop these in the marinade and allow them to be completely coated in the marinade mix. So you're going to need to stir this up well so that the chicken is completely coated in the marinade. Don't want to see any normal coloured chicken, if you like. I want to see that they are covered in the paprika, the garlic, the ginger, to add flavour to this. And then those can be covered up and need to go into the fridge for as long as you've got. If you were doing this at home and not at school, you could actually leave this for 24 hours in the fridge. But make sure your chicken is completely covered before you put that in the fridge to chill. To make the pickled cabbage for the burger, once you've got your chicken into marinade, you need to start the pickling liquid. So 150 mils of vinegar. This is cider vinegar. White wine vinegar would be fine. A white malt vinegar would be fine, but I wouldn't use a brown malt vinegar because that will colour too much. I need to add 75 grams of caster sugar into there to get that sweet and acid mixture. I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of turmeric. So 1 teaspoon of turmeric and half a teaspoon of coriander seeds. So just half a teaspoon, oops, a few extras, of coriander seeds in there. And that needs to be put on the heat and brought up to the boil until the sugar has dissolved. So I'm just going to turn around and put that on a gentle heat. And while that is dissolving, I can prepare the cabbage that I'm going to use. So for your cabbage, I've got white and red, and it doesn't really matter which one you use. You can use either the white or the red cabbage, doesn't matter, but you only need about 1/4 of a cabbage for this. So cut through and remove the core. The core is quite small on the cabbage, and I would remove just one layer from the outside, and then this needs to be shredded. And because it's going in a burger, I think this much cabbage is actually, the pieces, if I shred it that way, they're going to be too big. So I'm just going to use bridge hold, cut that in half again, so that I'm going to have smaller pieces of shredded cabbage, and then using claw grip, just cut down and shred your cabbage as finely as you can, so that we have nice small pieces of cabbage. And that knife is doing the job really easily, but if you don't have that sort of knife, you can still use a normal knife. The thing being, we want this cabbage to be nice and finely shredded. So shred your cabbage while the sugar is dissolving in the pickling liquid. Once the sugar's dissolved, you need to bring your your liquid up to the boil, and then take it off the heat and add your cabbage to it. And you need to make sure that all of the cabbage that you're putting in here is actually underneath the pickling liquor. If it's not underneath the pickling liquor, then you're not actually going to end up with pickled cabbage. So just press it down a little bit, make sure that it's underneath that pickling liquid. Lid on the saucepan and leave that to one side until you're ready for it. If you don't have a lid for the saucepan, then you can put a plate on the top to keep the liquid and the steam in. The last thing to be made for this recipe before you start cooking your meat is the relish. So, quarter of a cucumber, and it needs to be coarsely grated, so this side of the grater, and I'm just going to grate it straight into a bowl. So I've left the skin on this cucumber because I quite like the difference in colour. The other things that you're going to need for this are mayonnaise and a lime, and a little tiny pinch of salt. When you're grating your cucumber, and I'm nearly done, it's going to produce quite a lot of liquid. So we're going to have quite a lot of liquid from this. I'm just leaving the very end of the cucumber. So scrape, use your fingers, and just make sure you get all of the cucumber inside and out. And if you add everything else to this straight away, it's going to be really wet, and you'll feel, even as you've done it, that there is quite a lot of juice where you have broken the cells and grated the cucumber. So what we need to do is encourage a bit more of that to come out. So I'm going to sprinkle that with a little bit of salt and just leave it for 10 minutes. And while I'm doing that, while it's got 10 minutes to leave, I'm going to grate the zest of my lime using this side of the grater now. And remember, when you are grating lemons or limes, we only want the top coloured layer of skin. So I'm just going to do it a couple of times and move it round, and you should still be able to see all the pith, the white that's underneath. So I'm just going to grate this, squeeze the juice out, ready, but I'm not going to do anything else to this until it's had 10 minutes with a little bit of salt in it to encourage all the liquid to come out. Right, well, we're nearly ready to finish the burgers now. So I have grated the rind off the lime, and I've mixed that with 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and I'm just going to slowly mix in some of the lime juice, which will help cut through that. So it is up to you how much of the lime juice you add. Makes the mayonnaise or the dressing much runnier. So it does make your dressing runnier, but it's up to you. You can put in all the lime juice if you like, if you want it to be quite sharp with the chicken. If you don't want it to be quite that sharp, then you don't have to worry, but this is for the cucumber relish. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to make this too runny. Haven't quite put all the lime juice into that, so I'm not going to use the rest of that. I'll just put that out of the way. The cucumber has, as you can see, hopefully if I tip the bowl up, you can see there's quite a lot of juice come out of that. So what you need to do is pick it up in your hand and squeeze, and quite a lot more juice is going to come out, and you need to get as much juice out of that cucumber as possible, and that's then going into the mayonnaise to finish off the relish. Normally I'd do this over the sink, but I just wanted you to see how much juice can come out of the cucumber. So I've kept the juice in there. You can see there's quite a lot of juice in there. That goes out of the way. And then we have the cucumber and lime relish completed. So all that needs is just to be stirred together. So I have my cucumber and lime relish. I've got one bun that I've cut in half, which is the same as you will get at school, ready for toasting. I've moved the chicken out of the fridge, and all I need to do now is make the Sriracha glaze for the last bit of the chicken. So your Sriracha glaze, what you need is a tablespoon of American mustard. This is much milder than English mustard, so a tablespoon of mustard into there. And then a tablespoon of the Sriracha sauce. This is a hot chili sauce, so if you don't like lots of chili, you might actually want to put slightly less of this onto your chicken when you're cooking it. But those two just need to be mixed together. So that's the Sriracha and the mustard. I'm just going to use my pastry brush to get that off there. Mix that a little bit more, and I'm ready to go. The pickle is here, that's sitting and waiting as well, and that has actually, the cabbage has gone down quite a lot on that. So the only other thing that I need is my grill pan. So you can bake this in the oven if you wish to, but I'm going to do this in the grill. And because this chicken is coated and it's going to make a mess, I've just lined my grill pan with foil. So I need the 2 chicken thighs that have been marinating on one side of the grill pan, and you can just press them down so that they are as flat as possible. So I'm just pressing them down with the fork, flattening those out as much as I can. And then I need to just put this glaze over them before they go under the grill. Now, you can barbecue these, but obviously we haven't got a barbecue at the moment, and we don't have barbecues in school. You can bake them if you've got other things in the oven. If you're going to bake them, I would do them at 200 degrees, gas mark 6, for about 20 minutes. But I'm going to pop these under the grill so that I can keep an eye on them. So I've got to put a good mix of the Sriracha glaze onto those, and they're just going to go under the grill until I can see that they have started to cook. And what I want to see is that the white is going down the sides of the chicken. So I'm going to give them about 5 minutes under a medium to hot grill, and then I'll show you what they look like. Right, the chicken's had 5 minutes on one side, and same as on a barbecue, we've got some nice coloration on the top. But what I wanted you to see was the chicken looks quite well cooked all the way down to the other side. So this needs to be turned over, and when you turn it over you can see it's not quite finished cooking on the other side. In the middle it is still raw. So we just need to, again, brush this with a bit more of the glaze and put that back under the grill for another 5 minutes to cook. And this time, partway through the cooking time, I'm just going to put my roll on here as well and toast the roll at the same time. If you would prefer to toast your roll after the chicken is cooked, absolutely fine. Okay, so the roll is toasted. I've got my toasted roll there, which I'm just going to put on the board, and I just want to check that my chicken is cooked. So I do have temperature probes at home, but I know that this chicken was nearly cooked through anyway, and sometimes the easiest way to do it is to just cut it into the middle and see if the chicken is cooked through. So that's not quite done, so I'm going to put that back under the grill for another couple of minutes. If I lift it up, you might be able to see in the middle there, that still looked a little tiny bit pink to me, so I'm going to give it a little bit longer. Please check your chicken. Next time it comes out, it should be done. Okay, so the chicken's had 1 more minute under the grill, and I'm just going to cut again, have a look, and that one now looks done. So I'm just going to check this one at the fattest point, make sure that that one is cooked as well. And in case you didn't notice, that one is done as well. I washed my knife and fork in between doing this. So to layer up the burger, what you need to do is to put a little bit of the pickled cabbage. Go. A little bit of the pickled cabbage on the bottom of the roll first. So that goes onto the bottom first, and mine is pink. If you use a white cabbage, it would be white in colour, obviously, sorry, yellow in colour because of the turmeric. You can then add your piece of chicken. So a whole piece of chicken on there, and then because the sriracha and the glaze had, sriracha glaze and the marinade had some chilli in it, just finish it off with a little bit of the cucumber relish on the top. There we go. To cool that down if you are not fond of really hot food, and then your lid can go on and your burger is complete. If you were doing this for your exam, you could serve it on a board like this. You could have a little bowl of the cabbage separate. You could possibly even have another little dish with your relish in if you would like. I'm going to put this one on that smaller board for serving. And if you were doing this for your exam and you'd got more, well, you would have more than an hour and a half to improve the level of the grade on this, what you could do is make your own mayonnaise for the cucumber relish and make your own brioche rolls as well. But there you have it, sriracha glazed chicken burger with pickles. So in your lesson, you need to bring in something that you can put your rest of your relish in, your pickles, and you will be given 1 burger roll and you'll have 2 bits of chicken.